Fala jovens, estamos aqui, ó, tem que falar baixinho, né? A gente tá aqui na coletiva da Octavia Spencer, do filme A Cabana, deixe. Deixe. E ela é simpática, né? O que tu achou?
Achei ela simpática.
Simpática? Só foi pouco tempo, né? Foi pouco tempo, vocês vão poder acompanhar aí agora. É isso aí, valeu. Ficou meio Marcelo Rezende.
Eu sou também canadense, eu fiquei muito feliz de ver que não unicamente o Paradiso, mas Deus mora no Canadá, porque o filme foi gravado no Canadá. Agora eu gostaria de saber qual é a mensagem principal do filme e o que Papa falaria para Trump se ele chegaria na cabana.
Well, I think I think God lives everywhere. I think His apparent beauty is here as well. That's one of my favorite things about shooting in Canada, where there's natural sets. And driving in from the airport, I think Rio has a lot of those things that I love. The mountains, the beautiful landscape, the rock. I love how everything's built around that. And that's one of my favorite things about the shack. I think the message for Trump would be the same message for everyone. Love ye one another. And that's what how I live and who I aspire to continue to be. And as far as the message of the film, I try to stay away from telling people what to think. I think we all have so many different experiences that shape who we are, and therefore our message, the message that we need from the film will be different from someone else's. So I always just invite you to come with an open mind and take from it what you will.
André Corsino, do Cinema Agora Sempre. Eu gostaria de saber, pelo seguinte, o filme trata muito de motivação, de fé, né, de ter ou não fé. E você faz um papel extremamente importante no filme, que é Deus, e como motiva esse personagem a ter ou não a fé. E queria saber como você recebeu esse papel para criar esse personagem tão forte, tão especial no filme. O seu trabalho de atriz como Deus.
That's a very great question. I'm glad I finally understand it. When I read the book, I read it because it was given to me under the guise of it being a thriller. And the fact that it had this beautiful faith element, where a guy had suffered such a tremendous loss and that he couldn't come back from. He had basically stalled in his life, and it is evolving as a human being. I loved the way faith was introduced. I felt that he asked some very important questions of God that regular people would ask. So my motivation to play the part was to be a part of a film that allowed for that type of healing. I didn't realize when I did it, when I read the book, I also had some things that I didn't realize that I needed to let go of that were holding me back in areas. And as I was doing the film, after I had completed the film, I realized that for me, it also had another epiphany type of a catharsis. So my motivations as an actor were purely selfish. I wanted to be a part of something that offered hope and healing in the world, and my God, don't we need it now? And the second part of your question, I'm sorry, I forgot it. I think the way that God presents himself to Sam is, it felt very organic. He didn't try to force him to believe or to forgive. He basically allowed him to have different experiences where he was able to draw his own conclusions.
Olá, boa tarde. Tudo bom? Meu nome é Daniel, da U Magazine, o veículo U Magazine. Bom, minha pergunta é o seguinte. Uma das grandes qualidades do livro A Cabana é a caracterização socialmente descontraída da Santa Trindade. E disso, ela e uma jornada de autoconhecimento, e sua base é sobre amor e perdão. Numa fase tão conturbada historicamente, como você enxerga em si esse processo?
think one of the things that I also loved about the film and the book was how the Holy Trinity was presented. I loved being able to play the Almighty from the perspective of a mother to a son. That's how I approached the role. I think God made us all in His image, and the fact that William Paul Young, the book's author, decided to include Latina, Asian, Israeli, African American, and the telling of this story, it doesn't change Christianity in any way. It just allows us to see God presented through us. And I don't think he's making a statement that God is a woman or that God is a black woman. I think it's more about all of us being made in His image.
Thank you.
Olá, boa tarde, meu nome é Álvaro, nós somos do Estruturando Ideias. E a minha pergunta é o seguinte, como foi para você adaptar um livro que é um best-seller com mais de 30 milhões de livros vendidos no mundo todo, e como foi atuar com Sam e Alice Braga, a brasileira Alice Braga?
Oh, first of all, it was the fact that the book is such a huge bestseller lets me know that people feel the same way that I do about it, that they found the healing that they needed to get from it. I don't think it would have been a bestseller if people didn't see the beauty in telling the story. I really enjoyed working with Sam. I didn't have any scenes with Alice, but I'm a huge fan. And that actually is my favorite scene in the movie, where wisdom has to show man how we spend so much of our time in judgment of others, and just how difficult that is.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Melissa. I'm from Jovem Nerd.
Hi.
At the beginning of the movie, Missy asked some serious questions about religion to her father. Do you think the public can relate to that in a better way, coming from a child than coming from an adult?
Absolutely. I think one of the beautiful things about storytelling through the lens of a child is that innocence, and there's no judgment. And it's always coming from a place of curiosity. So I love that she asked a lot of very hard questions that he has to answer. But that's also one of the beautiful things about this book and the movie, is that she asks questions of her father that he has to find answers to, and some of them he doesn't really know himself until he loses her. It's a very touching, beautiful story.
Olá, eu sou da Paris Filmes, vou fazer em português e inglês. Nós estamos fazendo uma transmissão ao vivo na página do filme, e aí foi feita uma pergunta por uma fã. Ela quer saber se alguma coisa mudou na Octavia depois de fazer o papel, e como que isso... se algo mudou na Octavia depois de fazer o papel, como modo de pensar, de agir, ou de tratar as pessoas. Não faço inglês então? Já foi?
Well, I would like to think that I've always been the same type of person. I live my life being an example of the golden rule: treat people the way you want to be treated. So that much hasn't changed for me. It was doing this role definitely had an impact in my life. I realized that there were certain things that I was holding on to that I didn't realize that I was holding on to them. And by releasing them, I was able to move on from those things. But I definitely grew as a person, and I think life is a spiritual journey. Every day you encounter decisions that will affect not only your life, but the lives of other people. And how you navigate those decisions and the repercussions of making the wrong decision. So yeah, I learned a lot from it. I can't say that I changed so much that I don't recognize myself, that's the beauty of it. I've changed just enough.
Oi, boa tarde. Eu sou Clarissa do Escândalo Muito Mais. Eu queria saber como é que foi a preparação do papel com os outros dois atores que também interpretaram Deus, como é que eles chegaram a fazer não sei, alguma conversa, algum tempo juntos para desenvolver o personagem.
What was my preparation? I, worked with a local minister who happens to be a friend of mine, just going over doctrine, Christian, and the director had me read a couple of books so that he and I would have a shorthand. And you hold all of those things in your heart, because at the end of the day, as an actor, there's no frame of reference in playing God. So I had to look for the humanity, and for me, the angle was, if God the Almighty is the Father to us all, then my role would be that of Sam's mother. And that's how I approached it, as a mother who my son felt that I had betrayed him or abandoned him in some way. And there really wasn't that much time to develop any type of relationship with Sam, which was beautiful to me because our characters were estranged. So when you like somebody, it's very difficult to show dislike to them on film. So it was great that we had that distance.
Boa tarde, Octavia. Eduardo, do site Logado. Hoje em dia nós vivemos nos dias muito conturbados, onde a violência e o ódio têm predominado ao redor do globo. Você acredita que as pessoas, ao assistirem ao filme e ao entenderem essa mensagem de perdão, de cura e de esperança, a gente vai poder trabalhar para ter uma sociedade um pouco melhor? E você, como atriz, você acredita que o seu trabalho pode influenciar e estimular as pessoas a viver o perdão e saber lidar melhor com a diferença?
That's a very profound question. I think violence and hatred and all of those things have been around since the beginning of time. I mean, we had Cain and Abel, and it's been downhill from there. But the other thing is, there is a whole other side to who we are as human beings. And that's what we should always cater to, the good that I think exists in all human beings. And I think if we stop looking at our differences and focus on the things that are pretty much the same, in that, we all want happiness, we all want what's best for our children, we want to do the things that we love to do and to love one another. We focus on those things and we would be a happier world. But then there's an element of people who want more, and no matter what you do, they will cause wars or, what have you. What I hope this movie will achieve is each individual person will examine themselves, because you change the world by changing yourself and being the best person that you can be. I hope that this movie will offer that, but I also hope that it offers healing, because a lot of people do bad things because they are hurt. So if they are able to heal from whatever message in the film, that is a big start. But I think you change the world by first beginning with yourself.
Hello. Eu sou Cláudia Matos, do portal Gospel Planet. Vou quebrar protocolo. É um prazer ter você aqui com a gente e, particularmente, admiro demais seu trabalho. No dia a dia, Octavia conversa com o Papa e o Papa. E como foi a construção dessa conversa, baseada nesse relacionamento pessoal que você tem com Deus? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I talk to God every day. That's the only way to start your day. You can't have really a bad day if you start your day, give your day over to thanks and meditation. So I do start my day with prayer. It's a very different walk though when you are preparing to be a conduit for the Almighty, incarnate. I am not that, but it definitely informed how I would play the role. I too am a servant, and I too am a child of God, and for me it was about being of service to the role, and also not being too different that would deter us from the message of the film. So that was my preparation, and my personal talks with God. It's a little schizophrenic when you're playing God, so I had to separate that out and just deal with the mother angle. Thank you all so much. I think I'm going to be talking to you in some of the rooms, right? Yeah. Okay.
Ela agradece a todos, vai continuar a conversa com vocês na outra sala.
Obrigada.